You're watching Let the Quran Speak. Now we answer questions we receive from you, our viewers. If you have a question yourself, please visit our website, www.quranspeaks.com. Okay, Brother Shabir. This first question is related to a conversation that we had in a previous show about casinos and whether there should be casinos in Toronto. There were some proposals about casinos. So this person said that you mentioned that you wouldn't want to ride the subway expansion that was funded by casino profits. And this individual is saying that many lotteries and casinos are used to fund public schools. So does this mean that we should avoid sending children to our public schools now?
Let me clarify. In fact, I do ride the subway,
Okay.
regardless of whatever its source of funding. There are evils that we are responsible for and evils that we're not responsible for. And if we dig into things, we might find that almost everything is tainted with some sort of evil, but we're not responsible for all of that. What we're responsible for is, did you pay your fare to get on to the subway system, which is there as part of the infrastructure in a city. You could be visiting some other place. You don't make a moral judgment about whether this is, by what means this came to be, unless something is really so staring you in the face that you shouldn't turn a blind eye to evil, to be true. But you shouldn't go investigating to some depth to make life impossible for you and those around you. You have to make use of some things as they are around you. So my point was simply that in response to those who would say, yeah, we need casinos because we will get the profits from that, and that will help to fund our subway expansion, we should say, no, that's not how we want to fund our subways. I think that's the point. So in terms of public schools and however they get their funding, that too is part of the infrastructure that we can't change. You can't say, I'm going to stop sending my children to the school because it's funded by some evil source. Again, if the evil sources were so prominent and such a dominant feature of this funding, that would raise moral questions. How are we making use of something that is funded by immoral means? But if a trickle of that funding is due to some immoral or unacceptable source, then one can live with it and tolerate that because there's nothing better. But if there are ways in which we can continue to raise the awareness of people and to reinvoke or reinvigorate their ethical standards, which they already own, but they might have forgotten about, that's latent, and that we can bring that to the forefront, then definitely as Muslims, this is what we need to do.
All right, thank you for that. This is another question. Please clarify the minimum requirements for a marriage between a Muslim man and woman. So the person has two specific questions. How many witnesses are needed? And do these witnesses need to be males or Muslims? Should they be of good moral character, that sort of thing?
In the Quran itself, I don't find anything that addresses this question directly. There are witnesses specified in terms of writing a contract, a loan agreement. And some scholars may have extrapolated from that and thought that, okay, all other sorts of agreements too should be witnessed in the same way. But this is not specified in the Quran. In some of the traditions, this may be specified, and that has given birth to the classical Islamic formulation on this, that a marriage is usually solemnized in the presence of two witnesses. So if there is the offer and acceptance between the bride and groom to be, and this is witnessed by at least two persons, then this would solemnize the marriage. The idea being that it doesn't seem acceptable for a man and woman to meet each other and then in privacy the two of them agree, let's be husband and wife, even for the moment. But when it is done in the presence of witnesses, then this has the air of legitimacy. Look, we're not doing something secretive and in privacy here. This is public. We are taking each other as husband and wife. And so if you see us together, you know that we're not just fooling around. We're doing something that is ma'ruf, is acceptable in the society. So what is the minimum requirement? The scholars have said two witnesses. Again, drawing from the Quranic mention about loan transactions. So this seems to be a good principle to have in place.
The question is, what is the nature of the witness?
Do the witnesses have to be male? And the answer to that is no. If we have competent individuals who are reliable and they can give evidence to the fact that this has been done, I don't see why they have to be males necessarily. Do they have to be Muslims? And the answer to that also is no. The reason being that if people were married outside of Islamic law, if they were non-Muslims and they were married, and now both persons accept the religion of Islam, there is nothing that says that they have to be remarried. In fact, for them to be now remarried according to Islamic rule would be redundant, because Islam recognizes the marriage that is already performed, because the marriage in Islam is a civil contract, and non-Muslims can conduct civil contracts and civil agreements as well. So when they enter into Islam, their marriage is already automatically recognized, even though their marriage was done in let's say, a non-Muslim fashion. Though that's not the correct terminology here, but to be quick, that's what comes to mind. It's been done in a fashion that is not usually described in classical Islamic law books. Let's put it that way.
So does classical Islamic law say that the witness can be male or female, and it can be Muslim and non-Muslim?
Classical Islamic law was formulated within the context of a developing Islamic state, and a state that multiplied itself. Wherever Muslims went, they established Islamic states, and they established Islamic law in a sort of an ideal form. And so they always thought of course, to add to this, the world was divided between Muslims and non-Muslims. People were at enmity with each other, and there was a certain degree of mistrust between Muslims and others. So when it came to things like giving witness and bearing evidence, sometimes it was thought that only the evidence of the Muslim can be trusted in Muslim matters. So it was formulated like that. But where people are trustworthy and they're in good relationships with each other, that consideration is no longer relevant.
All right, thank you for that, Brother Shabir.
You're welcome.
That's all the time we have for updates and additional information. Please visit our website, www.quranspeaks.com, and write to us, because your comments and questions help guide the show. I'm Safiya Ali. For all of us here at Let the Quran Speak, thank you for watching. I'll see you next week.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar.